I'd like to call to order the Middletown Borough Council meeting for January 21st, 2025. If you would please rise for the pledge and remain standing. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic from which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Grace?
Here.
Here.
Ms. Reed? Here. Here.
Here. Ken, are you?
Yeah, tonight we have with us Tracy Strickland from HRG, and she's going to give us a presentation on the pool property master site plan, which a committee of a number of people in council and some business folks have been working on for several months now. So Tracy, if you want to come up and take it away.
Great. Thank you very much. Grace is going to help me advance the slides. Again, thank you for having me here. I'm Tracy Strickland. I am a project manager and a registered landscape architect with HRG. So tonight I would like to talk very briefly about the project itself, what that actually entailed and what the deliverable will be for you. We also want to walk through briefly a quick synopsis of our public engagement process and talk about how that led to the development of the designer's checklist. Then I will share with you the master site plan, as well as, if time permits, an initial very, very broad potential phasing plan. It's not set in stone. There's still lots to talk about. And the planning level cost opinions we've developed at the moment, just based on what's in the master site plan right now. And then just a brief, we'll land at the end on the potential next steps for this project moving forward. Thank you. Okay. So if you go to the next one. So really briefly, what were we doing with this project? As you can see on the left-hand side, you have types of plans. A comprehensive plan, as you know, is a very, very, very big plan. It's a 30,000-foot view. It takes on all kinds of things within your community. In the middle, where the blue check mark is, you've got what's called a comprehensive parks, recreation, and open space plan, which you have already done. You have recently completed that and are building some momentum based on that. And off to the right-hand side, what I've circled in blue is the Park Master Site Plan. That comes out of the Park Rec Open Space Plan, and that's a 1,000-foot view. If you go to the next slide, here's just an example of what that looks like. It is a cleanly computerized drawn, essentially illustrative diagram of a park that lays everything out that was developed during an inclusive design process at that time with some representative images to just kind of help people visualize what we're talking about in a master site plan. It is not a set of engineering drawings, so I do want to point that out, but it can lay the groundwork for developing them at a later stage of your project. You go to the next slide. So we will be developing, as you'll see tonight, a master site plan for what we're calling the pool property and open space that surrounds the pool. And the boundary on the screen is shown in yellow here. So it's not just the pool, but it's also the parking lot and that open lawn space that goes all the way down to the gravel parking lot to the south. So the idea is the master site plan can be used as a visioning tool and a roadmap for what the park could be for the community and visitors to experience now and years into the future. And then we'll talk about this again at the end, but something that came up during our process was maybe one day, what would you like that site to be called? Maybe potential renaming opportunities as well. So this master site plan began out of the kind of results of the Park Rec Open Space Plan. And to build on the momentum of what you learned during that PROS plan process, one of the things that we did is we worked with the steering committee from the PROS plan moving into the master site plan. Some additional things that we did from a public engagement standpoint is we also reviewed the public input that was gathered during the PROS plan process. We'll share some of those highlights here in the next slide. But we also developed a separate, distinct online citizen survey just for the pool property and open space around it for this project. And then this past June, we actually had a lot of fun at the craft fair. We took our booth there and took several engagement stations and interacted with anyone who wasn't looking to buy a craft from us. We got a lot of great input, mostly from residents, but also from visitors too. So if you go to the next slide, thanks. So this is from the PROS plan, the Park Rec Open Space Plan that you've already completed. Thank you. This was a survey that was done at that time. The results on the left-hand side were asking the participants in that survey what types of amenities or features or facilities that they would like to see added in general to the park and recreation facilities in the borough. So as you can see in the red squiggle kind of outline there, walking paths were definitely at the top of that list, followed by amphitheater or some kind of outdoor band shell structure. And then kind of in the middle, not quite complete ties, but a lot of votes for things like pollinator gardens, golf driving range, which is interesting, outdoor fitness equipment, and of course a kayak launch because of the Spatera Creek. So in addition to that, specific to the park site itself, there were some, as you see on the right-hand side under other, there were some additional open-ended responses for things, again, like an amphitheater, interest in outdoor fitness stations. We heard a lot of responses about dog parks. Again, another vote for the band shell of some kind, more walking trails, creating a visual connection to the creek itself, and again, pollinator gardens came up too. So that was good intel for us to start with. And then tailor some of our questions specific to the park site to see if people would think very, very specifically about that location. We had the online survey open for several weeks, probably 2.5 months. As of early July, we closed it. We got 117 responses, which, believe it or not, these days is actually good response rate. A lot of times we see under 100. Believe it or not, 117 is pretty good. 83% of those respondents were borough residents, so that's good to hear. It's okay to get input from non-residents, but people who are working here or visiting here, they might have some ideas for you as well. But it's good that a majority were also residents. And of them, many, many people did tell us that recreation is important to their family. And when we asked the question which groups might benefit from more recreation amenities in the borough, the first thing that came up was families. Families with children, teens, and young adults were noted as the top groups that could really benefit from more facilities. So we also do just want to get a snapshot of how frequently folks are using the parks in general. So I'm happy to report that they're either using them several days per week here in Middletown, or at least once per week, or at least monthly. So that gives us a sense that people really are using the facilities here that you have. Most of them are coming to the parks with a child, or a close second place with also some other family member. So we thought that was important to take note of as well. And then typically they're coming here, number one, to explore and enjoy nature, to actually also use a playground, as well as just general relaxation purposes. If you can see the blue and the purple in there too, is a close tie for 4th and 5th for attending a recreation program or event, as well as just exercise, to get out and walk or jog or that sort of thing. And then specific to our project site, the question was, what recreation amenities do you feel should replace the pool property and the surrounding open space? So the big blue bar on the far right-hand side aligns with some other version of some kind of outdoor water feature. If that was misting poles or something like that, just to, again, provide some cooling opportunity on this site. So that came in at first place, followed by some kind of gathering space in the park, an event lawn, an open lawn, or community space as well came in second, and then walking and jogging trails. That came in third. So we took strong note of that. But we also wanted to point out that in the open-ended responses, many people did note that they liked the pool. they wanted the pool to remain, or some other type of water feature, misting feature, or something in the park. And it was actually kind of surprising to us too, where other people said even if the pool doesn't remain, they were actually just happy that someone asked the question. What did they want to see at the park? That you were willing to listen to the community and take their thoughts into account. And not gonna lie, we saw a lot of comments for a dog park too. So, you know, have to make note of it, even if this site might not be the best site for something like that. And then finally, back in June at the craft fair, we use our poker chip exercise, which accompanies the images on the right-hand side of this slide, to take a count, like a head count of how many people have stopped by. And we had about 120 people come over to our booth and participate in our engagement stations. And again, we use our little poker chips are color-coded. So that gives us an opportunity to tally how many are residents and how many aren't. And we take everyone's input because it all matters, but it gives us a strong snapshot of how many residents came, and at least 90% of the people who talked to us and did the activities were borough residents. So as you can see, we had an activity that's kind of a little more regulated, and I'll explain that here in a minute, and those results with kind of preloaded images on the right, but we also have just a blank white board. It's called I Have a Wish. So if they don't see something in those images that they really, really like or want, they can tell us that themselves, and we put it on the post-it notes. If you have the next slide. So for the poker chip image board, we tallied all of that up, and walking trails came to the top, got the most votes for the things they'd really like to see at this site, followed by some kind of nature play-based playground, misting poles, again, some kind of water feature on that site, outdoor exercise equipment, those native pollinator gardens or planting spaces, and additional structures, shade structures like pavilions, gazebos, and things like that. And then on that I Have a Wish board, we tallied up all the votes for the open-ended kind of responses. And again, just pointing out that the pool, or putting the pool back or something like that, was something that they had a wish for, followed by the dog park and a skateboard park after that, and a variation of a splash pad. Everything else kind of, as you can see from the results, only got about like 1 or 2 votes, so we just kind of highlighted the ones that got the most votes there for you. So what we do is we take all of that information and we begin to compile what I call a designer's checklist to see what become physical elements that might make the most sense to test fit in the park master site plan. So we definitely prioritize the accessible walking paths to get to the park, as well as in and around everything in the park, some kind of event lawn or open lawn space. We heard a lot of great feedback directly from the steering committee because of the history of the site and its adjacency to the historical property, some kind of signage and historical sculpture. The misting poles or something like that on the site was considered important, as well as things like seating, low impact activities like those fitness stations, the additional pavilions, which actually not only add shade to the park, but can provide revenue generating rental opportunities for the borough as well. And then areas for native plantings, low maintenance plantings, and ADA considerations to make sure the site furnishings also have a certain percentage of them that have, say, a bench would have companion seating paved beside it. So, as I move into I'll show you the master site plan. If you hear me say some words, here are some images that explain all of those words. In the upper left hand is a woman using an outdoor exercise station. That's kind of what we're talking about. In the upper middle, this is what we are talking about when we say nature play. Not necessarily prefabricated equipment, or maybe not all of the equipment is prefabricated, but there are some pieces and components that are literally logs anchored to the ground, boulders, that sort of thing. On the upper right hand side could be a location for an area in the park offset from the trail for a pollinator meadow or garden of some kind, which could also be an educational opportunity. Right below it, when we talk about the trail in some locations that runs really along the line of the Swatara Creek, we think it's going to be sensible to have some kind of fencing there. So it would be, we think it would be appropriate to have this style of timber split rail fence. In the lower middle is an opportunity to bring in slightly more challenging equipment for the tweens and teens, to try to engage the older age range of kids that sometimes aren't served by typical play equipment. And then in the lower left is a great example of what we mean by the misting pole. So it's not a splash pad, but it's vertical poles that set a certain distance apart that can help generate a mist, a cooling mist, all summer long to provide relief from the heat, and then can be winterized in the winter. And then, as you can see here, they don't look terrible during the winter when they're not being used. And then on the next one, if you hear me say pergola, the image on the left-hand side is what I mean by that. There's a little inset image there of a reclaimed water pump. That could be an example of a historical element of some kind that could be introduced throughout the park, different styles of that, different types of that. I think the bottom middle is important to point out that while we're only in the master plan stage and we've not selected final equipment for anything yet, we do want to make sure we're providing inclusive play and ADA accessible play, so it's everyone plays together. And at the same time, again, the rest of the play images do talk about very active play and that tween to teen age range that with a zip line and climbing boulders and ropes challenges that can help make that transition and get kids excited about coming to the park when they're that old. So, okay, are you ready? Here we go. So right now, here's the master site plan as it's currently envisioned. On the left-hand side is a bullet list of those proposed features, thank you, based on that designer's checklist. Right in the middle is the parking lot. And what we're proposing is the parking lot remains and simply receives a simple resurfacing and restriping to provide the appropriate number of ADA parking spaces and an accessible crosswalk to continue our loop. But you know what? Here we go. Parking lot. ADA parking spaces, crosswalk. Sorry if I'm bouncing around here. We would like to suggest that new park signage and some simple landscaping to help redefine the entrance into the park could potentially be added right here. Nice entrance into the park. And the other thing that we think is a great resource that probably just needs to be reevaluated and upgraded is the building, is the actual combo pool house, concessions, restroom, and possibly just be converted into public restrooms for the park. The big change, obviously, that we're testing here is the removal of the pool and the support facilities, the pump house, the equipment for the pool, and replacing it with an oval open lawn area that can do everything from just be general hangout space, picnic space, event space for small events. We're not talking 5,000 people, but maybe for the neighborhood, or they're just an extension up from the waterfront, even if needed. And then on the end, a focal point feature of that could be a half hexagon bandshell pavilion structure that acts as a regular pavilion, or could also be a small stage area for small events. Again, we're not talking big concerts and things, but something smaller, more intimate, more family-friendly, comfortable size. And then around all of that, from the parking lot, around the building, to the event lawn, and around the gray area represents an accessible park loop trail, so that anyone could come, walk from the neighborhood, or drive here, and walk all the way around all of these things, even get behind the stage here in case there is something going on, take a walk with the kids, that sort of thing, and come all the way back around to the parking lot if they want. And then inset here, these little brown symbols are gazebos and pavilions, again nestled in almost their little, what I would almost call planted pods, reintroducing some trees to the site to nestle it into the landscape and give people a chance to have their own little small events if they want. Along the trail, we've placed some benches with ADA companion seating. The symbols don't show up very well, so we'll have to go back and fix that, but we also have some symbols for those historical sculptures along the trail. And then anywhere you see these kind of white arrows pointing out across, looking through the water. What we're suggesting is simply pruning some trees, limbing them up, and opening the views to the water to reconnect that visual access. Not a physical access, but a visual access to the creek. Coming back all the way around to the parking lot, on the south side, or the right-hand side of this image, we've test fitted a pretty extensive area for that nature play, active play zone. And as you can see, we kind of have two different areas here with different types of equipment. So this symbol in the middle that's kind of long and skinny is the zip line. Others include the climbing boulders with ropes, tumbling blocks, logs, and things like that. And then in the area that's bigger, just below it, is room for more play equipment. We still haven't selected all the equipment yet, but there's even room for, say, a very low height tumble hill with an inset slide. There's plenty of room for the trail system to flow easily around that, as well as all the way through the park. And then on the bottom edge of the nature play area, we test fitted that pergola to sit there without having to come in with yet another big structure. This pod of kind of purple blue is where we're suggesting the misting poles and a water bottle filling station might go to cool folks off and fill water bottles while going for a walk. And then if you continued on around the loop trail here towards the edge of the property, the trail comes up through a small meadow area, again with more benches, and then we have a dedicated area for outdoor fitness stations and a small gazebo tucked into the trees here to serve both the exercise stations and the nature play area, and then a spur trail off to the upper corner here in case you wanted to connect to a future borough-wide trail system at some point in the future. And then through there, where we don't have anything else like dedicated space, we did try to identify locations where anticipated stormwater management, rain gardens, and things like that would need to take place, because we would be introducing more trail and more paving and things than is out there now. So we want to leave room for all of those things moving forward. Okay, so I can pause here and we can talk about the concept, or I can move on into kind of sort of what we're thinking for potential initial phases based on costs. It's completely up to you.
Didn't we envision around the trail maybe dog waste stations possibly?
Oh yes, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry about that. I did forget to mention, near the park entrance to the left here would be a bike rack and a pet waste station. And to the right would be a separate standalone water bottle filling station. Thank you, Ken. The thought process was, so far, the consensus was we didn't think this was the right site for a dog park, but when you start to introduce a neighborhood walking trail in a park, there's a good chance people will want to walk their dogs there. So we would anticipate that by trying to, provide the resources to control the messes, basically. Would you like me to talk about phasing, or you want to stop here and let's just hash this out?
What do you have for differently able people?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I might answer your question with a question. Would you like
Okay.
to? Yeah, it's okay. We know we want to make sure we incorporate different ability levels in the play area. And we know we want the site furnishings to be accessible by everyone and have things like that. The fitness equipment, depending on what is selected, there are pieces of outdoor fitness equipment that are meant for everybody. So people in wheelchairs can use them, people in walkers can use them. Braille can be used for people of low visibility to give instructions on how to use the equipment. Did you have something else in mind that I haven't mentioned yet?
No, I don't have anything particularly in mind. I'm just curious as to what you had in mind to use or introduce down there.
That's a great question. Yeah, I think we can take another look at that and see if there's room for some other pieces that could make sense.
I think more of a concept
Yeah,
that we were looking at. We didn't pick the specific type
Correct.
of play equipment yet,
correct.
but
Yeah,
So the intention is that you would have ADA play equipment and possibly fitness equipment in
Yeah.
there, it's just not.
Yeah,
Doing
we're
that.
not at that point. At a later stage of the project, absolutely, we would very much at that point get into sitting down and picking that.
And the trail will be.
The trail, yes, yes, the trail is intended to be a minimum 6 feet wide, maximum 8 feet wide, and depending what the material is, if it's not aqua-paved to asphalt, it would be completely compressed trail surface aggregate to limit that. It's a pretty flat site now, so yeah, we would grade it to make sure everything is less than 5% if you're walking or wheeling along it. Yep, and no step transitions either, so.
And that trail system, sorry,
Mhm.
is just, the committee talked about a grander vision that isn't including here,
Correct.
that we talked about it, what Tracy mentioned, the pros plan, which we conducted before this master site plan. But in the pros plan, we envisioned a larger community trail system
Mhm.
that may run from Susquehanna Street in the river, eventually to Hunter Park. So that's why you're seeing the two spurs on the creek side of this park, that eventually we can extend those possibly in the future.
Yep.
So,
Over where, the green lawn area is, where the pool currently is, are all of those brown circles pavilions?
This would be, yep, this would be a gazebo, this would be a gazebo, this little square or rectangle would be a pavilion, everything else are trees.
The solid brown?
The solid brown,
Okay,
yes,
'cause I
yes.
was like, that's a
Yeah.
lot of pavilions in
No.
a small area, okay.
No, thank you for asking me to clarify that, everything else would be proposed trees, yeah. Yeah, it would be a lot.
How many pavilions are you looking at? I can't
So-
pretty much tell.
Right now, we show 3 gazebos. One over, yep, we show 3 gazebos, one to the far right between the exercise area, and you probably don't see my red dot bouncing around, but we have one over by the nature play area. We have a smaller gazebo closer to where the culvert and the concrete head wall is now, overlooking the water. And then we have a medium-sized gazebo along the street, basically, between the pool house and that band shell. And then we snuck a little rectangle classic pavilion off to the far left, closer to the historical property. So right now, keep me honest, pavilion, 3 gazebos. So we've got four either gazebo or pavilions, and then a standalone band shell half hexagon thing. So technically 5. Don't know if you need that many, but yeah.
I have 3 questions. One, what is the size of the green area by the band shell?
Ooh. Well, I don't have a measurement shown on here. We can add it, but it's at least as long as the parking lot is, and probably 1.5 times as wide. So I'm gonna say, are you gonna do some quick math for me, Josh?
Looking to see if we could
He's
find
looking it up right
scale.
now. Yeah.
The other question was, what is the approximate size of that band shell? I thought that was a measurement up there, but I can't read it.
Oh yeah, so this one, so the little pavilion's 12 by 20, and then the band shell, it, again, we can pick, we're assuming prefab. I think the minimum size you're gonna want is a 32-foot diameter like this way, so probably not quite, or maybe just about as long or as wide as this room. It's not meant to overwhelm the space or be a big performance stage. If you wanna see one we just built, it's in Chocolatown Park in downtown Hershey. And that's kind of what we're thinking about at this point. You're welcome to go see it. It was just opened in November.
And then the last question was, you mentioned the dog park. I understand it's not on here, but when you say that, was there any feedback from the public as to what they were envisioning with the dog park? For example, I know sometimes there's a long strip of ground and there may be
Right.
section runs
Right.
so that multiple people could take advantage of the space, and the dogs are
Exactly.
separated so they're not fighting.
Exactly.
What, did you have any feedback from the public as to what they envisioned for the dog?
No, they never really said anything specific, and because we probably had a notion early on that it was probably not gonna be this site was probably not gonna have a dog park on it. To be honest with you, we didn't ask them to elaborate. But yes, you're absolutely right. The typical recommendation is to have multiple runs, the double gated security entrance, and usually some differentiator between at least big dogs and little dogs, and in big dog parks, small dogs, medium dogs, and very large dogs. And we just weren't sure that this was the space for that, considering
One of the things that we heard early
yeah.
on, probably even during the pros plan was, when we talked all those different things, was Middletown currently does not allow dogs in any of
In
the
parks.
public parks.
Right,
And this is kind of a compromise to that, where this park would allow you to walk your dog. Technically, you're not allowed to walk your dog in
right,
Upper Park. The sign says no dog. So we thought this park, and eventually, hopefully someday the larger trail system, would be allowed to walk your dog there on a leash and have way stations as a sort of compromise between park and having some place to go with your dog.
Jim, the open space about 160 long and about 110 feet wide.
thank you, Josh.
Isn't that about, that's comparable to Little Middletown, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty big size. Yeah.
Does that feel about right? Too big? Too small?
I was just curious.
Yeah,
I
okay.
didn't know.
Well, doesn't this trail lead over to Hopper Park?
No, not at this time. Not this concept, no. That'd be-
Oh, okay.
These little arrow points, you said it wasn't necessarily water access, it's just
Right,
overlook.
it's the overlook.
What are the options for water access? 'Cause I think that'd be cool to be able to have a spot where you can walk down and fish or just,
Yeah, that's pretty steep there. We,
Yeah.
in the pros plan, we looked at that, and
Yeah.
we envisioned that happening down around Susquehanna Street where it flattens out more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Currently, as you might recall, we just applied for a
Yeah.
LSA grant for a waterfront park on Susquehanna Street. That's in the works now. But that is another piece that eventually
It'll be
we
down
could
here.
connect
Yeah.
these two. But the actual kayak stuff we talked about, we talked about when we were doing Hopper Park, talked about it here. It's really, at all those two park locations, this one and Hopper Park, they're steep banks to get to
They
the
are.
water.
Yeah,
So we had looked at, I know our public works director, Highway, Matt had looked at possibly being able to build a kayak launch down alongside of the current boat launch area. And he's had some preliminary discussions with the Pennsylvania Boat and Fish Commission about that. But, so that's, water access isn't here, but
Yeah, and this one,
we're envisioning that at some
and
point.
this one particularly, it's not even that it's steep too. It's just how high. So much of a grade difference that in order to cut back any stairs or anything, you'd lose a lot of the site just from grading it in. So
What's the pale blue line on the edge of the water?
that
This
is it's the FEMA regulatory floodway line, which
Okay.
when you put it on the image doesn't make the most sense, but that's where it is. on
where
the
they
map.
put it, yeah.
Josh, I can't picture that embankment when we say it's unworkable. Just out of curiosity, is it possible that you could put any sort of pier structure merely for sitting on off of those areas?
You could, permitting it in the floodway, because they look at, when you permit something like that in DEP, they're looking at it not from a recreation perspective, but what obstruction does it give to the waterway. So, depending on what we come up with,
I'm saying not going into the
Sure.
waterway, but
Just along the
out
top
of
edge.
that embankment that you could be on this walking
Yeah.
trail and
Yeah,
you
no,
could
Yeah.
lunch.
that's
Yeah.
definitely a
No.
very realistic
Yeah.
possibility.
It's a good idea.
Because we do show this bump out of the trail with a grouping of 4 benches near the nature play area, but that could be a logical spot potentially for something like that,
Okay.
I
Okay,
think it'll be a nice addition.
okay,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
good
that
idea.
draws a lot of people when you're able to kind of
Mhm.
sit by the water.
Because we think about it, there's bridges that go, but nobody has a spot to actually sit almost overlooking the water.
Right.
So that might be,
right.
Can you explain me the difference between, I guess, I think I kind of know what I just want to hear you say, the splash pad and misting area.
Yep. So with a splash pad or a splash park is usually an area where, you will actually, I don't know if you've been down to Binns Park in Lancaster, but it's got actual water jets. That water, big pieces of water come out or come down or come out of rings overhead,
Yep.
and you could actually get drenched pretty quickly. And it's got a safety surfacing on it, and it's got nozzles and all of that. Misting poles don't eject water that same way. They keep the emitter, it's almost like an aerosol type spray.
I think the lines at Hershey Park is what
Yeah,
you could imagine.
exactly.
Okay.
Much more like that. So what can happen is, so you don't have to come in swimsuits. You don't necessarily have to worry about changing the kids' clothes or your clothes afterwards. But you're out there on a 90-degree day or something like that, and it's really hot. You can get under this, and kids can get under this and cool off without clothes becoming wet or having standing water. So it's a built-in safety factor, and it can be a sculptural element the 6 months out of the year that it's not being operated. So.
To his question, you just said a built-in safety. What do you mean by that?
So slip-resistant surface and no standing water. So think of the rubber safety surfacing at some playgrounds. It's a lot like that.
So would a splash pad not be as safe, or you're just saying in general?
I think it could be as safe, but it's got a lot more water use involved, a lot more mechanics and equipment to run it, and then like anything else, you want to make sure all the inlets are cleaned of debris all the time so you don't accidentally get pools of, even small pools of standing water near them. So it's mostly, usually doesn't happen, but if someone were to fall face down and knock themselves out, you don't want them to be laying in water.
So I don't know if you'll know, but approximately how close to the road are those misting poles? Like, what's that distance there?
I'm gonna say that that's probably 25 feet to the first pole, give or take. I can measure
Pretty
for
good
you
guess.
and get back.
That's pretty good.
Is that a good guess?
That's pretty good guess.
Keep me honest.
I'm the engineer over
Okay.
here with the cursor and
Yeah.
PDF editor.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 25 feet.
Okay. Are you concerned that it's too close to the street?
Well, I don't know, I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
Because I can see whether it's a splash pad or the misting poles, children going down there
Mm-hmm.
and possibly not being accompanied by an adult. So
Right.
my question
Right.
or concern would be
Yeah.
how close is it would that be a safety issue that it's too close?
I would say if you wanted more of a splash pad experience, I would want to rethink where we put it. For the misting poles, I think it's fine where it's at because it's less about running around and interacting with moving water and more about just getting there and even with kids and just cooling off. That's really more of its purpose.
And how high is the gazebo or the band shell?
Oh, and you're gonna ask me that. I think the bottom of the eaves is probably no higher than your ceiling in here right now. So.
Because I will say, like, one of my concerns with that would
Mhm.
be graffiti and vandalism,
Fair enough.
especially
Yeah.
if it's low enough.
If it's low enough that they can get up there, yeah, that's a good point.
And if there's a stage there,
Yeah.
that makes it even easier.
Yeah.
Is there any talks about like a really like pretty fountain or something?
We did. Actually, we talked about it, and the thought process was, being that it's so close to the floodplain and the floodway, we probably didn't want anything else that could hold water that could get contaminated. And then you have that risk factor of standing water in the bottom of a fountain when the fountain's operable during the summertime. If kids fall in, accidentally start treating the fountain like a pool. So, and then how does the fountain look? Like you do with anything, how does the fountain look in the wintertime when it's closed down? So,
I got you.
yeah.
Ladies, ladies first.
Oh, thank you. I'm not sure if you'll know this answer. This is probably directed more at Ken, but, so let's say theoretically this is 2025, so this would be something that may be in 2026 or started. At that point, is the borough gonna be paying for the water?
Yes.
Yes.
So any water usage down here would go to the borough as part of the borough's water bill?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen to Pat's question, have you seen the fountain at Lebanon Valley College?
I used to work for the company that made that fountain. Yeah.
I think that's an excellent fountain.
Well, thank you.
I mean, because
Yeah.
there's no chance for any child to be playing in standing water, and it's almost an interactive fountain. let's put it this way, if I at 20 years old could be entertained by it,
Right, exactly.
children could be entertained by it. So it's a, kind of like a, I guess I would say like a stainless steel type circle
Yep,
with LVC symbol in the middle of it.
Yep.
And then there's holes drilled all over it, and the fountains shoot up at
shoots
random
the water
times.
up, yeah,
And it has colored lights and
yeah, yeah.
that's something that could be cool.
I guess,
Then the
some-
water's,
right.
the water gets on that stainless steel thing, it goes through the holes, there's no standing water, and then it gets recycled.
I got you.
so something to think about would then be, aside from initial construction costs, which is fine, is water service, drainage service, because they can't drain to storm lines, they have to drain to sanitary sewer because of the chemicals to clean them, and that's fine, that happens all the time. The ultimate design of it, and it could be a feature out here, but then the maintenance of it and the upkeep of it, of that, and
Since
all
your
that.
company designed it, how does the LVC fountain operate? Is that recycled?
Most fountain water is recycled through the system, and they have float valves, just like a pool does, to monitor the water level, which will evaporate naturally anyway. And then that is why you have a water line serving it to top it off as needed, and then you have to tap into the sanitary sewer to drain it, to clean it, to winterize it, that sort of thing. So yeah, most of the water is recycled, but it's gonna naturally evaporate throughout the entire time it's operating in the summertime anyway.
I would welcome everybody to look at that. Good job. That was,
Well, thank you.
we were very excited when that came to the college. So.
I will say this, not that this, as you've seen already, these are not inexpensive propositions, but a fountain like that's not inexpensive by itself, so.
What was LVC?
Oh, don't ask me that. But I would say, well, that goes back in memory banks, I wanna say that was at least 200 grand.
Wow.
Because of all the mechanics that has to go into it, the design, all the utilities, all of that stuff. So, then you get into lighting, and then you get into winterization,
Right.
yeah, so.
Just buy a couple products.
Any other questions? Alright, we go to this is just a very, very broad phasing plan. We do not think that this is the end-all be-all set of phases you have to do this in, but we wanted to start to think through how some simple phasing might begin, depending on funding in the future and your desired outcome and the amenities you want in the park. The thought process with doing phase one on the pool side was that if you went for certain types of grants, knowing that you would have to perform demolition on the pool, it's also then better to do more than just demolish the pool. It's also just good protocol to then put something positive back, right? So we're saying that this could be an opportunity to introduce that open lawn area and the first portion of the trail system, introduce some of your gazebos and pavilions, and investigate opportunities to upgrade the concessions, restroom, pool house into an ADA compliant, bigger restroom for everybody to use. Additional landscaping and your stormwater management facilities could go in at this point. And then phase two could be the nature play area, the rest of the trail system, the misting pole and pergola, and the outdoor exercise area, plus that second overlook area that might now be a pier or something like that. Doesn't mean you have to do it that way. Doesn't mean you have to do it only in 2 phases. We could in the future look at sub-phases and breaking this apart even more, but it was just a way to start to think about how this could be packaged. And then, I saved the worst for last, the costs. Yeah, so please keep in mind that this is just a cost opinion at the planning level based on the master site plan you're seeing right now. This can be heavily influenced by whatever you decide stays in or not to the master site plan or any given phase. It also doesn't reflect any cost to upgrade the existing building. That would be a separate endeavor and I think would be better performed by an architect and a structural team. However, that does give you a sense for if you did it all in and wanted to think about funding, these could be the potential ranges. Or you could start with phase one or phase two or smaller parts of phase one and smaller parts of phase two. and test the waters and see how the public responds to using some of the suggested improvements and amenities in the park before you commit to bigger investment. So,
What product was used for the gazebos and the band shell?
that was Polygon, and it was purchased through CoStars.
I'm sorry, I have one
Yeah.
question. Could you go back to the,
Keep it.
Back one. That
This
one.
one? There you go.
one more?
Yeah, one more to the plan.
Well, yeah.
There you go.
Where is the rain, garden area? Is that what it's called?
Yep, we have a couple. We actually put some at the end of the parking lot. We put a larger one up here, and depending on what we grade into the site, we also put them along the outer edges of the trail. So we could capture with the natural grade and the way the water, if rainfall were to land and how it tends to want to flow, it's going to tend to flow towards the creek. So we want to have a couple opportunities to capture that flowing water in each section of the proposed park area to address it. Now Josh will tell me I don't have enough, Sean,
No,
and I need more.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Tracy.
But also keep in mind that the subsurface of, say, this is wood fiber mulch, right? The sub base acts also as storage for that because this is an impervious surface. It's not, putting down concrete or asphalt. The water can flow right into the bottom of the play area. So we have that opportunity as well. And then depending on the trail material itself, right now, the basis of design is that trail surface aggregate, but maybe there's opportunity to study porous asphalt, things like that. So. Okay. So our goal tonight then is to take your feedback. We can study the overlook option and get some of our symbols back on, address your comments, and then send out a final master plan for you to have in hand to make decisions what you want to do next with it.
I have another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you stay here all night, I'll find more questions for you, I'm sure.
Okay.
So in the rain gardens,
Mhm.
and I honestly don't know, like what would be, you would plant something,
Yes.
obviously,
Yeah.
something that doesn't need to be mowed, so the maintenance
Correct.
would be low.
Correct, yes.
So would they be like native to Pennsylvania plants?
Yes, please. I'm the plant lady. I will make
That
sure
would
that
be
they are native
awesome.
and non-invasive and, where's Matt? Very low maintenance, so that we can take that burden off. And also, in a park setting like this, the other factor that I always like to throw out here is to make sure the plants are non-toxic, just in case kids want to sample, or dogs, exactly. So that way, there's no accidental issue that emerges with those plants.
I had a lady yell at me at a park.
Why?
She said, "You have your kid and dog out here. There's toxic plants out here, you know." No, I didn't know
I
that.
didn't blame
I
them.
won't say the park. I won't.
Yeah. Other comments, questions, other feedback? Okay, great. Well, thank you all. If you think of anything else, let us know. But we'll study a little overlook area right here and see what fits, a little pier system, and go from there.
Did Lori, yeah.
Yeah, Lori,
I just wanted to make a few comments. I'm Lori Ike from DCNR. We've done a lot of
Yeah, that would be good.
my name is Lori Ike. I'm with the Department of Conservation Natural Resources. And I also live in Lower Superior Township. Don't hate me for that, but I do have interacted with a lot of the parks over the years with my kids here. And I was very involved, and with Upper Park and finding funding for that and other parks. One that hopefully will start right across the street here soon. And so you have a local advocate and for funding and connections to other state agencies. So although those numbers sound very daunting, I appreciate that, but there are funding sources. I can name several of them. DCNR, DCED's Greenways, Trails and Parks funding, LSA, and not to mention the gaming grant. All those funding sources can be leveraged to meet some of the funding, and I understand the funding challenges of the borough. One of other
you.
strategic plan to find funding sources and figure out how you wanna phase this project based on those available funding sources.
Mhm.
And I really like your idea of the overlooks. I think that's great. I think, people wanna see the water, and however that can be done would be great. And again, I just, I'm here, I'm
Mhm.
local, and if anybody wants to meet with me at any time, I'm available to meet and talk. We were very successful over the years for receiving funding from our agency and leveraging other funding sources. And so,
Right.
let's not be too scared about it.
Thank you, Lori, and, the, window for the DCNR grant, I think, is open now.
Yes, it
Right.
opened today. It closes April 2nd. You have to have your matching funds in hand. So I think a better approach would be start to applying for the matching funds this year and then apply to DCNR next year. So you're working, you have the LSA, and that could be matched towards ours in April, as you know, but that takes about a year till you're here. But the gaming grants open up, the CCD's grants open up, so there's some opportunities to apply for other funding sources, but this is your park, it's not the state agency's park, it's yours, and that's what this plan reflects. And my agency is here to support in however you want the park to be developed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions?
I just wanna say that I'm glad you stood up and said that, Lori, because, no, I'm glad that you said that, because I can remember when we were discussing Little Middletown, at the time, there were comments at this table that I'll believe it when I see it, and I responded, you'll see it when you believe it, and you were instrumental in getting that park done. We didn't spend any taxpayer money on that, and that is one of the greatest things we've done in this town. So I'm glad that you stood up to give everybody, confidence to move forward, because these are the type of projects I think that make Middletown unique.
They transform your town.
They do.
They transform your
The
town.
first thing and the last thing people see when they come to your community are your public places. So if they're engaging, accessible, safe, and clean, good luck with that. In today's environment, anybody can work anywhere. But if you want to attract families to live here and grow here and attend events and participate in the workforce and grow the workforce, you have to provide local park and recreation amenities and trail systems that make them want to live here. They can live anywhere. So that's just, and the walking trail system is phenomenal, and that will be accessible, and there could be exercise stations along there. I did see recently in your neighborhood, Highspire Borough.
Yeah.
They put in a fabulous, fitness station that, I don't know what organization funded it, but it is so cool, and it's for teenagers, and it gets used a lot. It's right by their main park.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen it,
Check it
that's
out.
pretty cool.
Yep.
Match pictures with some counselors.
Yeah.
And if you get money for that, that can be leveraged towards our grant. So please use me as a resource to work the magic of the grant. I'll do my best.
Thank you.
We're gonna do that, and talk to you about the square.
Okay. Unfortunately, we don't fund fountains.
It's all right. I don't need a fountain.
Okay. All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Lori.
I will say that with those overlooks, I think it would be cool if you did 2 of them.
I do too.
Oh, okay.
I will show and I'll price them, and maybe what I'll do is we'll show them as outline and we'll show them as that alternate, so you can see this is the stable cost opinion, and then these would be additional pieces on top of that. That might be worth pursuing it that way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it wouldn't be worth it to have that building looked at sooner rather than later. I know that's not included in the price, because what if they come back and say, that building's not worth saving? We're gonna have to build a new one, just so we have an idea of what we're looking at with that actual building. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
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 So who would look at that?
We have an in-house structural design team that can prepare a proposal for structural assessments. We do that a lot at parks. At the very least, their report can help you determine, are there red flags in here that will actually make it more cost effective to tear it down and do over?
Right.
Versus, actually, it's not that bad. If you knock down this wall, did this, your utilities look good, there's no lead, there's no asbestos, et cetera, we can do this, this, and this, and suddenly the interior is fully ADA compliant, and you're good to go. They can help you make that determination.
Yeah, Yeah,
That's-
I would
Mhm.
like to see that sooner rather than later.
Okay.
My other question would be, so I know, Lori said about starting the process of looking for other monies to be the match for that grant. Do you think we should, since now this has been presented, maybe having Tracy, it is Tracy, right?
Yep,
Okay,
that's right.
sorry. I just
No, it's
wanted to
okay.
come back maybe to another meeting, maybe our next meeting, and have her here and maybe do like a quicker presentation. This way, if anybody from the public has any additional input, that would be the time. Give them 2 weeks to kind of review this. Will this be on the website or somewhere?
Normally don't put drafts.
Things can change. But we can say it's available.
Yeah, or even if somebody wants to come in and look at it, then they could look at it and then give them, well, I guess it's not 2 weeks, it's 3 weeks, right, till our next meeting? I think it's 3, because there's 5
You mean
weeks
on
in
the-
January. Just for additional public
Mhm.
comment and input in case anybody, and then, would you be able to do something like that?
I come back in 3 weeks and just listen, do another listening session almost, or just talk about the plan?
Well, maybe.
Now that the council's seen it and we've had our feedback, if there's any, I know the process would be first the council would review it, but it would be worthwhile to
Yeah.
make sure the public has a chance to see it and comment on it as a next step.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect you to go through the whole slide process again.
Yeah, I just start with that. and
Yeah.
say-
Yeah.
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 Okay. That would be maybe the regularly occurring February meeting, or would it be a special meeting?
It's the 4th,
The
I
4th?
think. I think it's Tuesday the 4th.
Can we do Tuesday the 4th?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
I actually have to attend a different meeting. Is there another meeting?
Should be.
I know, right? You tell them that.
Then the third Tuesday in February would be our next meeting,
I could do
4/11/18.
Okay, I could do that one. That's 2/18?
Mhm.
Yes, I will book that. That's only you, okay?
Yeah.
And then maybe we can just post somewhere that if someone wants to see it, they could
Yeah,
look
and
at
then
it.
the next step after that would be to decide if you're all in, would be to engage an engineer to start the design. Because most of these grants, you have to at least have a preliminary design to apply for the funds.
For the
Not
grant?
this one.
No.
No, for DCNR, this would be fine, but you'd have to have good,
Mm.
cost estimate.
Tracy, I think the meeting's actually the 20th.
The 20th? Okay, that's.
I think I may have misspoke.
That's okay. I'm
Oh, thanks.
booking it now.
No,
All right.
that's
Yep.
funny.
And yeah, we do have
Ooh, I'm sorry, I'm in 24. Tracy, I was right the first time.
18?
18.
Okay.
The 4th is the next meeting and the 18th is the one after.
Got it.
My apologies.
No, that's okay.
And that's not gonna be too late to move forward with any additional funding, correct? Or to decide to start moving forward?
Provided there's no big left turn on the master plan, add test fitting some piers and things, that's easy enough to do.
Okay.
As well as the cost opinion. If you decide you want Hershey Park all of a sudden, that would be
Right.
different. But assuming we're close to the finish line, it's relatively stable, then basically at that point, as you just said, you can, if you know you wanna do the whole park or part of it, and I do think we should talk with Lori too, so.
Yeah,
I
that's
think it would be good.
to put together more of a funding plan and understanding the deadlines and the
Exactly.
opportunities.
Exactly.
Sometime between now and then or at our next meeting, can we, whatever we have to do to have that building looked at, what do we have to do?
I can,
We get a proposal together, I don't
Yeah.
think you're gonna be able to do an evaluation that quickly.
Of that
Is there-
building?
Is there somebody like Matt and maybe you or somebody, I mean, instead of looking at it from structurally, like as far as space, like somebody can just determine whether or not it's big enough or what things are broken. We could have a preliminary thing without having a structural guy say that, and we can pretty much tell whether the walls are falling down, right, or the roof's caving.
Or
Yeah,
is there asbestos in there or, those?
Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna be able to get into that level of detail between that, like, first we have to put together a proposal, get that approved to actually do the work. I just don't think in 2 weeks I'd be able
no,
to
probably not.
have that done, no.
By the 18th.
Matt could give you his assessment with some pictures maybe, what's down there.
We have the floor plan for it, so.
That'll be handy then, that'll help, yeah. Okay.
We can think about between now and then envisioning how it would be used on a, public restroom for
Right.
people who are down there for events. The other thing could be, maybe you go to a point where you could actually, have a portion of that building that you could rent out for
Event
private
activities,
events or,
yeah, exactly.
like a park or
Right.
Yeah, I just don't wanna look at things at too high of a level and make a decision for a grant based off of that. In my opinion, the building evaluation is kind of part of the next planning and design steps, more so of a, kind of a quick look and a test fit type of thing. Would you agree
I
with
would
that,
agree
Tracy?
with that, if you really, yeah, if you wanna really feel like you've got your, doesn't have to be detailed design analysis, but just to know, again, are you looking at a serious overhaul, or,
That's what I'm looking for, and
And
not that
yeah,
determines how I feel about grant money. I'm just more curious, because if we're looking at that specific phase, where does that building fall into it?
right,
If
right,
it needs to be torn down and
Exactly.
rebuilt.
yeah, understood.
Yeah, and, if we would have to do, the worst case scenario is that complete tear down and rebuild it. It's not like you're rebuilding you don't have to build a whole building like that. There's a lot of modular restroom structures, kind of prefab things that don't take a ton of engineering to go into it. So we've done a couple for some Dauphin County parks, so, yeah, really, I think if, the icing on the cake is if we can utilize that existing building. But yeah, I just to jump right from where we're at now into a structural evaluation and the turnaround time that we're talking about, I think it would be best served kind of in a design phase of things.
Well, that was our assumption when we went into this concept, was to reuse that building.
Right.
That's why it's there.
Or were there issues with the building when the pool was open?
It's not that old. I mean, it was last used 4 years ago.
Right, were there issues with it then?
No, it's cinder block. It's not like
Yeah.
rotted lumber in there. It's concrete and cinder block. So if the roof's good and the space matches what you wanna do with it,
It might be pretty easy.
I'm fairly confident you can renovate that.
Yeah.
We can go look at the plumbing pictures, and even if it's plumbing, unless there's something under the slab that needs to be done, I would think it would be, if it's the size we're looking for, and I think for public restrooms, it probably is, it's bigger than the one at Upper Park.
Yeah. It may be worth some more conversation. Admittedly, during the process, we just put the brown roof on it and said the building. But when we think about the building at Huffer Park, that is rented from April through October every weekend for family picnics or, could that building function in that way at this park? Because we turn people away who want to have a family activity in our park.
Well, and I do think that's where a structural, just an assessment versus an analysis of your, like, a deep dive into, like, every square inch. The assessment just says it's structurally sound, the plumbing's good, there's no hazardous material in here, the general space fits. It doesn't give you a floor plan for any of that stuff, but it could say, yes, it could fit 2 full-size ADA compliant restrooms, a family restroom, any number of other things, maybe not a kitchen if you don't want that, but a prep area where people could come and put food in a fridge and lay out a spread on a countertop and have a birthday party or something like that. They can say yay or nay, this is in good shape to move forward with that, or we just flagged something major that you
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you,
Appreciate it.
Tracy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And certainly before we move on to the next agenda item, we do want to thank Lori Yike from DCNR and Robin Pellegrini from Middletown representing the lift for businesses that such a project can offer. And they have been with us from the beginning, the pros plan and now the master site. So thank you both very much and for coming this evening. Thank you, thank you.
So just to close in the loop that, guys, we'll represent to the public on the 18th, and then I think maybe kind of the immediate steps after that, maybe sit down with Tracy and our financial group and just kind of talk through some next steps with grants from there.
After that, and then we would sit down with Tracy and Lori and have more of a funding
Well,
conversation.
that's kind of the meeting I'm talking about, yep.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, we're good? We're good? Yep. I'd like to report on our last executive session. We discussed potential litigation and real estate. No action was taken. Now's the time of public comment on agenda items. Seeing none, item number one.
Do I have a motion to approve council meeting minutes for the January 7th, 2024 meeting as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number two.
Do I have a motion to approve payment of bills as shown on the accounts payable list dated January 2nd, 2025, which is for the period of December 13th, 2024 through December 31, 2024, and to ratify approval of such bills already paid and to authorize the appropriate officials to take the required actions to make those payments?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number three.
Okay, at our last meeting, we approved Patricia Newhouse to the library board with a term to expire 2027, which was incorrect. So the motion I'm presenting now is to correct that. Do I have a motion to appoint Patricia Newhouse to the library board to have a term to expire December 31st, 2026, which amends our previous action that we took on January 7th?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number four.
Do I have a motion to accept Pam Miller's letter of resignation from the position of tax collector for January 31st, 2025, which rescinds our previous motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
With regrets.
Yeah, with regrets.
Yes, I would like to thank Pam for her years of serving. Does anyone know how many years she was the tax collector?
Oh
my
my
gosh.
goodness gracious.
Wow.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number five.
Do I have a motion to approve change order 003 for crane services to set transformer T2 at the Spruce Street substation project in the amount of $12,243.64?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Number six, manager's report.
Okay, we covered item number one on my report, and so we'll move to and item number two, and item number three. We're getting through my report pretty quick. Item number four there's two letters from Veolia in your packet, which were sent to the joint venture that address the new lead and copper rules for drinking water, and the second one addresses PFAS rules for discharges from wastewater treatment plant. Each letter is requesting a collaborative meeting to have a discussion on how Veolia can help Middletown ensure future compliance with these new requirements. So, I guess the thing I can point out, that meeting hasn't happened yet, but in our agreement with the joint venture, the concessionaire, it explicitly spells out that when they took on the lease, that they were going to comply with all the existing EPA and DEP rules that were in place at the time. And should there be any new requirements that would come out, that they would be able to address those separately in terms of compensation for meeting those requirements. So that's what these two letters are about. So anybody that normally listens in on, I think Jenny and Angie lots of times listen in on our bi-monthly meetings, I expect that might come up at, this item might come up at our next meeting, I think it's next week.
Yeah.
So we'll have more information after that meeting. So item number 5, another informational item on the joint venture. It's there showing that we received their cost recovery report and their scheduled rate increases for 2025 that amount to a 7.7% increase effective January 1, 2025. There are a couple of information items that weren't on my report in your packet that I just want to throw out there. One of the other supervisors may have some additional information on this at some point too, but reminding everyone, but this is the year of the air show at Harrisburg International Airport. That's in May 24th and 25th. Dan's going to fill in for me for the February 3rd meeting where we'll get more information on what they're expecting, but we got preliminary estimates that they think they could bring 15 to 20,000 people into the area for that air show. As you know, the Blue Angels are coming. They haven't been here for many years, and they always draw a big crowd. The other informational item I have is that I should have passed it out to you, but maybe I'll give it to you here after I wrap up my discussion here. But we got 2 draft letters from the Pennsylvania Municipal Electric Association urging us to write our state legislators and our federal representatives here in Pennsylvania about the planned price increases that PJM is going to assess come June. I don't know if you know, but Governor Shapiro has filed a claim with FERC, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, about the unfairness of this rate increase. And our association that we're a member of, Pennsylvania Municipal Electric Association, is urging us, each member, to send its own letters to Federal Senator Cormick and Fetterman, and also our state legislator and state reps. So I'll hand those drafts out to you so you can see them, and with your permission, I'd like to send those off. So I'll let you see those. If you don't object, we'll do that this week. Okay. That's all I have in my report.
Okay, thanks, Ken.
Thank you, Ken.
Item number 7, codes. Jason?
Good evening.
Hi.
Evening.
Typical stats that we have on average: 70 open violations, 14 rental complaints, 8 property complaints for the month of December. And looking at the item here, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the proposed zoning amendment, the sign ordinance Part 2, Chapter 260, for the signs. And you will see the updated revision attached as well, notifying some of the changes that were recommended, and the Codes Department recommends that this gets placed on the agenda for the February 4th meeting. And we're continuing to work on other zoning and code ordinances as we speak. Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions for Jason?
Good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Grace, are you gonna run the ad?
Item number 8, Greg, electric report.
A couple of project updates. The transformers were delivered. Unfortunately, we couldn't set the one where we had the setback from the possible contaminated soil because the concrete was just poured and it wasn't up to the break strength. So there is a change order for that. And I did have that on an action item for an approve up to it came in a little bit more than what they thought, so, like, we got the quote just on, right before this meeting, so we were able to get the correct amount. Block for the building has been ordered. They're gonna start the footers and the block work for the control building shortly. Almost all the conduits run through the yard out to all the circuit poles. Other than that, our normal repairs on the substation were held on, trying to think, last week. We had 2 circuits that were down. We finally got both of them repaired. Everything's on Mill Street substation right now. We had to take Spruce Street down while they were digging through there. So the circuits are holding, and this is a good test for it, this weather. And we should be able to put Spruce Street back online, I'm hoping tomorrow or the next day when they're finally done with that. So, don't have anything else other than Christmas decorations are down and put away.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 9, Finance. Sally?
So there's a couple of things I wanted to bring your attention to, and the first one is the water sewer legal expense transfer. At the next meeting, I'm requesting a vote to transfer $650,000 from our water sewer investment account to cover legal expenses that are currently at approximately $450,000. Now we will get our quarterly payment in March, approximately $300,000. So that will go back into our investment account. And the second thing, I want to introduce Sydney Fossil-Land, who used to be with the police, and I saw her. And so she started with the finance department on January 6th, and we are filling her head with lots of good stuff. So I just wanted to bring her along so she could see how the council meeting goes, and you've all been very well behaved. So
The meeting's not over.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Item number 10, Fire Department.
Oh, we got a question.
Todd?
Got a question
Oh.
there.
Rochelle?
Rochelle.
Sally, there's a question for you.
Hey, did we receive liquid fuels money?
We will get a allocation in 2025. I think off the top of my head, it's about $293,000.
Okay.
But we have not received that yet.
It'll be coming soon. I think it's March.
Yeah, we're currently submitting reports for 2024. So we haven't received 25.
When was the last time it was raised for?
You mean year over year?
Yeah, when was the last time that it increased?
It increases every year.
Well, we added some roads, and when we add some roads, it increases.
Yeah.
We added some roads from Woodland Hills, so that increased it.
Oh, okay, so every time we add roads, the amount goes up.
Yeah.
Okay, I totally forgot that.
That it?
Yep.
All right, thank you, Michelle.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Todd Webb, Middletown Volunteer Fire Department. We had talked internally at the fire department. I think it's a good idea every once in a while to come in and say, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what we have planned for 2025. So along the line of fundraisers for 2025, we're gonna continue to have our election day soup sales. I think last year in the winter or the fall, I think it was around $1,500 that we made profit off of that, which was, pretty good. We are relabeling our, the gun/cash raffle to the sportsman's raffle for a couple of reasons. It's less offensive, and we're gonna try and incorporate some hunting trips in there. That some people offered us to offer up for, chances to raffle off. That is gonna be October 18th. So everybody can put in their calendars.
Last year when you guys did that, what was like the fundraising estimate that you got off?
For the raffle,
Yeah.
it was right around between like 19.5 and 20,000.
Yes, that's a really good one for you.
It took 15 years to get to that point.
Yeah.
Todd, when you said it's less offensive, were you guys getting complaints about the term?
We had gotten them in the past. We had gotten messages on Facebook, because it's a volunteer organization, it's a government entity, why are you pushing guns? But people have the cash option. If you don't like guns, you don't want to support that, that's fine. Then take cash. We'll give you cash money. So we thought by rebranding it and changing it a little bit, it could be more appetizing, because we are trying to grow it every year more and more.
So there'll still be some guns then?
Oh, absolutely. But we're adding in more, at least 1 or 2 hunting trips we're gonna try and do.
Yeah, that's an interesting new
That is.
offer, yeah.
Something different.
Mm-hmm.
Our fund drive, we took the advice of council, and we're gonna try and push that out in early March, get that out in early March.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna see that in your mailboxes. The block party that we had discussed for for this spring, I am coaching high school baseball again this year, so my availability is very, very limited from now till the middle of May. And I didn't find anybody at the firehouse that really wanted to take that on. However, I sat and thought about it. I talked to Jenny a little bit. Whenever, I know the county wants to plan a big 250th celebration in July of 2026 or around there for the 250th anniversary of the country. We'll be here. If you want to start a committee to sit down and talk about it, involve civic organizations in town. I said it years ago. I thought about it years ago with the Halloween parade when the Kiwanis Club kind of fell off a little bit and lost their membership. It takes somebody, an organization, to step up. The Moose did that. So if we can spearhead it, be a huge part of that. If anybody remembers back in 2004, we had, I think, a 3 or 4 day carnival.
Yep.
Down at the boat landing. That went well. So I think, the fire department should be intricately involved and very involved in that. Online raffles, that's something that I will take. I'll take that one on the chin. That was my fault. I told you I wanted to get that out by Christmas. Our IT guy broke his leg, so we didn't really have access to much of anything. And Chief Whitebread and I spoke. We're going to meet with that individual sometime soon to set up the page of what it's going to look like. And we have our treasurer and financial secretary working on setting up online forms of payment that are acceptable that we can receive. It's not as easy as I would think it is. To my 16-year-old, he could probably do it in a heartbeat, but for these gentlemen, they're working on it. We'll get there. And ultimately what I'm most proud of is we're going to do restaurant nights this year. We have 12 restaurant nights set up throughout the year. If the borough could share that on any social media or advertise that as much as you can, because it not only helps the department, but it helps the community.
Yeah.
And I wanted to try and find something that we could do that not only supported us, but the community and the restaurants in the community. So we have 12 of them set up. A big thanks to Dawn Null. I asked her to do that, and she went around and called everybody to get that all set up. All those restaurants are in the borough, by the way. There's none outside our limits. The first one is this Saturday, the 25th, from 7 a.m. to noon at Cuppy's. And the February one will be at Bruno's on February 8th, which that's also a Saturday, from 4 to 8. I know there was a big push last year to try and get the fire department to do more fundraising, so we've added 2 more this year. I'm committed. We're going to try and do better. As far as the financials go, the financial status, Earl Bright and Jim Wheeland are in the process of closing out 2024, and I'll have more information about that next month. And lastly, you should be receiving invitations to our annual banquet on March 22nd.
Oh, good.
That is our time to invite everybody who's had a hand in making the fire department what it is, and we encourage everybody to come and celebrate one night with us, and so we can say thank you. That's what the big thing is, so we can come and say thank you. So that's all I have for this evening.
Any questions?
Really helpful, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
When did you say that was?
What?
The banquet.
March 22nd.
Thank you.
If you don't get your invite, let me know. But maybe you should get it.
Thank you, Todd.
Thanks. There. Number 11, Highway.
Good evening.
Hi, Matt.
Evening.
Pretty quick and simple report. HRG is gonna be working on the property boundary down at Hoffer Park as requested. Ken and I went up, did a very good job with presenting to the county gaming board, last Monday. So we're anxiously awaiting, hearing how we made out. The generator for the Main Street gym is scheduled to be completed around the end of the month. Hopper door replacement should begin hopefully when it warms up a little bit they're looking at the end of the month also. The replacement HVAC unit for this has been ordered. It will hopefully occur next week or the week following. And conducted some successful interviews to hire a highway maintenance worker 3 to fill a vacancy from someone who left. Anything else for me?
What ended up being the situation with the banner arms? Do they ended up being too small?
They're too big.
They're too big. So what happens now?
Oh, they can be cut down.
Where are they now?
They're here. They're at Public Workshop, probably down at the Pike Yard Garage.
Vulcan Electric is really dragging their feet getting us answers, but they did give them an answer saying that the 35-inch arms, we have 36-inch arms, the 35-inch arms would be an extra $1,600 to provide those.
Well, I just want to say that I would never recommend, not that I don't have faith in Matt and the team, but I would never recommend cutting a piece of equipment that was purchased through a professional company like Dolphin Electric and retapping it to mount in those poles. Because if something goes wrong, not that it would, but if something goes wrong, there is no way in hell they would honor a warranty if you've cut an inch off of them and then retapped them.
There's no tapping. They're a slip fit.
Yeah, but he's talking about the pin.
You have to drill them.
The cotter pin hole. So you'd have to cut an inch off and machine drill cotter pin hole an inch up. They have a machinist who tested one and did it perfectly. And the machinist cost to do that for all of us $400. But to get the 35-inch ones opposed to 36, because it's a special length, it's another $1,600 which goes off on.
So it's a difference of $1,200 because you're gonna have to pay $400 anyway. And I would spend the $1,200 to buy it from the company that's gonna give you the warranty.
It was $6,000 to return them.
$6,000 to return them.
35% restocking fee.
Plus the 1,600 for the,
Plus shipping, right?
oh,
Well, that's not good. And those are powder coated entirely, are they not? Tip to tip, all the way around the sides. So when you cut them, they will not be.
Mm.
Yeah, we can paint the end. I mean, it's obviously not as good as powder coating, but it's also protected inside the bracket that it goes into. They are aluminum, so they won't rust. They can corrode, but they won't rust.
Hmm. I'm sorry, I'm still at 6,000. Whoa.
What was the cost that you said, the cost to cut them and re-drill them was what, $450? Is that what you said?
400.
400, that's a big price difference.
Hmm.
Then what is like,
I don't even understand why we're at this point, though. Why do we have the wrong size?
I told you that. Oh, outside of this meeting. It's the fact that it's the clamp on versus the one that's built into the pole. The clamp on
And
the clamp itself adds an inch.
I know, and that's why we had a very specific email as to how to measure them. That's disappointing. I mean, it's a brand new product, and I don't want to be doctoring a brand new product. That's how I feel.
Pardon me for not knowing, but what function is powder coating on aluminum? Like, what is that to do?
It's better
similar-
than paint.
Yeah, it's similar to a paint. It's actually like a polymer material that they heat the aluminum up to, and then it electrostatically bonds to the aluminum.
Scratches less easily, chips less easily.
Mm.
Harder coating than paint.
Right.
Mm.
I can probably find someone who will powder coat the ends. That's not out of the realm of possibilities either.
Hmm.
On a similar note, what is there a I know you redesigned the flags for winter. Is there something for spring as well? No. I'm just curious. I didn't know if there was.
No, the banner folks, Blouse or Blouse, I'm not sure how he pronounces it, said they would honor the price for the 37-inch banners. They would stitch them at no cost. They would honor the price that they had sent us when they had sent the larger banners a few weeks ago. They acknowledge they have a issue with their material that they got from their supplier, so they would stitch them too at the same cost.
The winter Christmas banners.
Smaller ones, yes.
But Jim, then we're not doing spring banners in the same seasonal program that we had talked about before?
I don't see why we wouldn't be.
I guess that's the question then. Are we?
Yeah, it's January 20th. I haven't finalized something for spring.
Okay, I understand, but I thought you said that we weren't doing, there was a
I didn't say
note
that.
for spring.
That's
Okay.
what
I didn't say
thought
it.
too.
No, I just don't have anything to present to you at this moment.
Okay then.
So are we gonna make the banner wider, or what are we gonna do?
No, you're not going to make the banner wider because you, meaning not cut the arms or not get the correct length, then you have two different length arms. So you either have to return them and get the correct ones, or you have to cut them.
I can't imagine a return fee of $6,000. That's a lot. The rods were a lot, but we approved it. There were funds. It might not be ideal, but if there's a workaround, if you will, for trimming it and even powder coating it to not lose or compromise any of the protection, my guess is that's less than $7,600.
Yeah, I'm sure the powder coating would be relatively negligible as well. That shouldn't be that much for dipping 66 ends. I can get pricing on powder coating.
Thank you.
Are we in limbo until I get the powder coating prices?
You know, here's me. That to me feels so in the weeds with your job. If that's the solution that makes fiscal sense and we just want nice banner rods, I'm like, go get it done. That's me. Anyone else can speak up, but jeez.
I think we should see how much the powder coating is.
Okay. I will do so.
And then go from there, just in the event that it is more expensive than what, we initially think it would be.
All right.
Also, how many quotes did we get on cutting them?
One.
I have a question.
Sure.
Not about that. The doors are the, big, down at Hoffer, the pavilion door, that's the big door, right?
They're all of the man doors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the garage doors aren't fitting, the garage doors are
couldn't
fine.
remember.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
all the 22, I think, man doors. All the interior, like for the bathrooms, for the closets, for the exterior doors, to go in and exit doors.
There's 22 doors in that building?
Yeah, there's a lot of pairs of double doors. They add up quickly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that'll be nice to get that taken care of. That'll look nice down there.
Mhm.
We'll have to paint them once the weather warms up enough. They'll be primered and they'll be fine for a few months.
Mhm.
We'll just have to paint them and decide what color we would like.
I have one other question.
Sure.
Do you recall the inside of the pool, is that tiled, like square tiles? I remember we went down and looked at it, but I can't remember.
Partially.
Part of it is.
Yeah, it's only a certain distance down on the sides, and the bottom is just finished concrete, it's plastered concrete just the way around.
Is the tile the whole way around at the top? Or just saying yes. I know what you're saying, that it doesn't go the whole way down, that's plaster. I'm talking, yeah, like that
It-
much.
Honestly, I can't think of it in my head whether it goes a foot or so below the whole thing or not, the whole way around.
Okay.
Yeah, I can definitely stop and take a look for you, let you know.
Maybe not this week, next week when it's a little warmer.
Yeah, even the locks are cranky this week to get. So, I'll provide HRG the floor plans for the bathhouse, whatever we call the building there, and that'll give them a head start on what they wanna do for their portion of things as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Those
very
are my
welcome.
questions.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Matt. There was no Mara meeting, so there's no report. And police report, Dan?
Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening.
Mine will be brief. I have no action item request for the next meeting. Staffing update, Alex Suarez is doing well in the academy. He's only been a couple weeks, but he's doing really well. I received a request for a loading zone request. The only reason I put this on the agenda was, if the solution we came up with doesn't work, they may officially request to have a loading zone, which would need to be approved by council. But KT Media on South Union has a 15-minute parking spot in front of their business. That's a holdover from when a dry cleaner used to be there. It's a single spot right in front of their business. It's worked for them for a long period of time. However, they have some new residents in the neighborhood who are parking in their 15-minute parking spot. We historically allow those type of localized 15-minute spots to be enforced at request of the business who, it's technically not their spot, but de facto it is to some degree. When I spoke to the owner, they hadn't called and had us ticket anybody yet, because they didn't want to cause financial hardship to a resident in the neighborhood. I suggested that we go that route and see if that helps resolve the issues they're having, before they officially request a loading zone. So, she's going to call us when they have a particular issue with the neighbor, and we're gonna do our best to resolve that issue. If it results in a ticket, so be it, and then she'll get back to me if she officially wants to request a loading zone. So, only put it on because if there is an official request, it'll have to go before you. The only other thing I have is I attached the last 3 years of the uniform crime reports for 22, 23, and 24. The only thing of note I want to bring up is October of 2024, we are listed for a homicide. The infant death investigation we had, where we ultimately charged the parent with the manslaughter charge, is listed under uniform crime reporting as a homicide. Another example of where statistics without reference can sometimes be misleading. So, that's all I have.
Does anyone have any questions?
Nope. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks, Dan. Item number 14, joint venture. Grace, note that no one appears to be here. And item number 15, council. Is anyone?
I have something, and it's I don't know if it's for Matt or if it's for council. I know probably last year we were talking about all these new park improvements, and I had brought it up. I thought it would be a good idea if we're gonna do a project like the one we're getting ready to do across the street, is that you put up a sign, a drawing of what this is gonna look like, so people know that this is what we're doing, so they just don't drive by and say, what's going on? You know, so people know that we're actually doing something for them. That's all. You know, I don't know if Matt has an artist rendering of what that's gonna look like. I have no clue.
Do we?
Yeah, we can see about making something happen, cause I'll have a rendering for it. Yeah, let me see what I have.
I know they put them up at construction sites, you know, it's just a whiteboard with a little shield on it and a piece of plexiglass so it doesn't washed away.
That's a good idea.
You know, just for whatever we're doing, you know, for here, for out at Fry, whatever we end up doing down at the pool property, that, you know, so people know that we're
Yeah, that's a
doing
great idea.
all right. It just came to me when Tracy was talking earlier.
I have something. So I think that obviously the council's aware, but for the public's reference, and Grace, I think you have a copy of this letter that you can attach to the minutes, as this should be addressed this meeting. At the last meeting, there was a vote on the affectionately called trailer ordinance. I drafted correspondence to Borough Council on January 15th. It reads as follows. Pursuant to Section 3301.3 of the Pennsylvania Borough Code, please allow this correspondence to serve as confirmation of my official veto of Middletown Borough Ordinance number 2024-1419. I do not take this decision lightly, nor do I reach it in haste. I have rarely exercised my veto power over the past 11 years. Therefore, I strongly urge you to consider why I have chosen to do so here. Middletown Borough Ordinance number 2024-1419 requires further study, including consideration to its effect and the availability of other options, as well as an investigation as to its interplay with Middletown Borough Zoning Ordinance Section 260-173F, which I believe has been misinterpreted and misrepresented during discussion relative to this topic. I am hopeful that as the issue is discussed and elaborated upon, this body will reach a reasonable solution for the benefit of all Middletown Borough residents. Hopeful of compromise, Mayor James H. Curry III. So I'd just like to attach that to the minutes. I noticed it wasn't on the agenda. I assume perhaps it's dead, but if there was a section of the public that wanted it and a section that was against it, that to me says that there should have been further discussion to see if there was a compromise relative to it.
Anyone else?
I actually have two items. So the first, I know, I think I had mentioned this before, but in the whole parks plan, I would like to see, us putting some type of playground equipment down in the Colston Park area prior to the Susquehanna part of the pros plan, if that's the right word. Because that could be, 3 or 4 years out, and there really isn't a lot of equipment out there. So, and I know I was told that there's different grant money that we may be able to utilize for that specific area. So I
Right.
would like us to make that park our next agenda in terms of small parks because, we did Overdeer, Fry's coming up, Oak Hills, Little Middletown. It's time to do something down there. On a small scale, it doesn't have to be anything grand, just playground equipment for children when, they want to play. And the next thing I have, if you...
Angie, can I say something? Am I allowed to say something?
No.
Well, I didn't, the procedures are still, we could include that in our conversation with Lori Yike when she comes to talk about this project, because we noted that DCNR does have funding, as she said, but it's broken into categories of projects. And there is a funding line for small neighborhood parks, which would be a different amount of money, a different funding source than this project. They wouldn't compete one with the other.
And it doesn't even necessarily, to me, have to be in that Colston Park area, just somewhere in that general area doing something, some type of equipment. So. Is that it, Ellen?
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. I have something else. May I go again?
Sure.
Thank you. Madam President, Mayor Curry, fellow council members, Ken, and borough residents. Today marks the 13th consecutive meeting that Councilor Rettinger has missed since his removal as council president in 2024. The residents of Middletown elected Councilor Rettinger to represent their interests, and fulfilling that duty requires both presence and active participation, neither of which he has demonstrated. While I personally can empathize with the humiliation of being removed as council president, that does not justify neglecting his responsibilities as an elected official. Currently, the council has no authority to remove an elected official for missing meetings. Therefore, I respectfully ask Councilor Rettinger to do what is in the best interest of this community. He should either begin attending meetings or resign immediately, allowing for the appointment of someone who will actively contribute to the work of this council. I trust that Councilor Rettinger will take the necessary action to serve the best interests of the borough and its residents. However, if Councilor Rettinger does not intend to return as an active participant or to resign his seat, I urge him to return his stipend, which is funded by taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'd like to echo that.
Thanks, Rachel.
Okay.
And I'd like to also echo something else that, Councilor Lloyd said. The area down on Susquehanna Street, Jenny and oh geez, I forgot your name there.
Ellen?
Alan, thank you. We've talked about, using that as part of the Colston Park area. Calling it the Colston Park Sports Complex. But that could also be, an additional playground. You know what I mean, Ann?
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, it could be a huge playground area, a sports complex playground area.
That would be great. I just, would prefer to see some type of equipment placed down there prior to that phase of this plan, which could be,
Yep.
4 years from now.
Do you have an objection if it would be put near the fields?
No, because I think there used
There's
to
a
be
slide
a
there now.
little, yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't even necessarily have to be in that, what we know as Colston Park.
Because we know that's gonna change. Or could change.
Right, yeah.
So down by the because obviously, having
all
had
those
kids
parents
down
then
there,
could go.
parents and kids are
Yeah.
sitting down there for all these practices.
Right.
Are you open to that?
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
I just think something in that general area needs to.
Jim, I mean, the family is actually a little bit distressed about the fact of the condition of Colston Park.
I understand that, and I agree. But I'm just saying, if there's an idea in the future to make a grander area in honor of the Colston family name, then if that's going to be moved from that very small area to a bigger area, I would rather see the money spent in the area that we think the Colston complex or whatever it's going to be called could be, rather than on a small piece of land that we're not going to utilize possibly in the future.
Yeah.
I think it honors the family more to give them a bigger complex, or the name more, I should say.
And you could take the Colston Park and use it as a pollinator garden or something like that.
Or a dog park.
Hmm?
Or a dog park.
Mm-hmm.
Secure, kind of out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Anyone else? Now is the time of general public comment.
Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening.
My name is Abraham Patel, and I am here on the behalf of Senator Patty Kim. And I would like to introduce my fiance, who's here. She grew up here playing basketball downstairs. This is just an introduction that the senator is focused on working with local borough and municipalities. There's going to be a follow-up meeting with the borough managers and with everybody that wants to be there with her. So you guys can introduce yourself as well as she can introduce to you and talk about different policies. She's the chair of local government, so she's very passionate and wants to work with local government within the 15th district. So I'll leave my card here with you so that we can set up a meeting time and talk about different ideas. So thank you for your time, guys. And I took everything that you guys talked about, including the letter, so I'll make sure that.
And I do have a meeting set up with her for this Friday.
Oh yeah, that might be the one then.
9 o'clock.
Yep,
Yeah.
that might be the one. So, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
Hey, Ellen,
Rochelle?
Yes, Rachel.
I apologize. I took some medicine when I got home.
Okay, Rochelle.
It's understood.
Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, Ken, we're just,
We're going to recess
Oh.
to executive session, and we will return.
okay. We're gonna recess to executive session. We will be returning.
What are we doing? Is the executive session only for the personnel or for everything that we want to discuss?
You could come back out and go back in.
I'm sorry?
We can do this one thing, come out, adjourn, and go back in.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
I'll get it when I come out. I didn't know if you were.
No, I'm drinking that one. Are we coming back and then going back in?
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
We're having two.
We'll be reconvening the meeting, and we have a motion to present.
We, discussed the personnel matter, and we are taking action here, or recommending action. Do I have a motion to place Officer Tyler Coleman on a 4-day unpaid disciplinary suspension based on the recommendation of the mayor and the public safety director?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
We going to executive session again?
Yeah. We'll be going back to executive session. We will not be returning, so I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes, meeting adjourned.